All right, and we're started. Yes, we have the applause to get us started.
I like that.
So we usually will need to speak directly into the mic so it can pick up the audio.
Gotcha.
But we're so excited to be joined by John Hawkins with the Office of Planning today on the District 3 podcast. I'm Ben, the legislative assistant, and we're just going to go ahead and get it started. If you just want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So my name's John Hawkins. I'm a senior planner in the Louisville Metro Government Office of Planning. I've been in government for about 7 years now. Prior to my role in the Office of Planning, I worked for Louisville Metro Housing Authority on the Vision Russell Plan. So that was a big HUD grant. It's about a $29 million grant for neighborhood revitalization in the Russell neighborhood. And before that, I was with a nonprofit called Center for Neighborhoods. I taught their program Neighborhood Institute for about 5 years and worked my way up from program coordinator to interim executive director when I left. So I've been working neighborhood planning and neighborhood revitalization for probably the last 12, 13 years or so.
Oh, lots of experience.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more. What is the Office of Planning and why is it important?
So the Office of Planning oversees long-range neighborhood planning and the economic and physical development that goes on in Louisville and Jefferson County. Our mission is to ensure the prosperity, health, safety, sustainability, and general welfare of the residents of Metro Louisville. So we have a lot of different sort of activities that we deal with. So we deal with zoning, so the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the Planning Commission, those are all under our purview. Historic preservation is another big program that we deal with. And my role specifically, I manage the neighborhood planning program.
Okay, awesome. So just to dive a little bit deeper, let's see if we can break that down a little bit.
Okay.
So what does that mean for me? So I'm a resident of District 3 in the South Louisville neighborhood. So why should I care what the Office of Planning does?
Well, I think it's important to realize that every sort of aspect of your public life, from the time that you get up in the morning to the time you go to sleep, is really affected by planning. So the zoning that your the zoning classification your house may fall under, that's part of planning. The sidewalks that you walk down the street, the streets you drive on, the businesses that are located around your house and your access to amenities, those are all regulated through land use planning. So everybody is affected by planning on a daily basis. You know, it's kind of like you may have heard the old adage that everybody's a pedestrian at some point during the day, even
Right.
if you're just walking from your car to your office. Everyone deals with planning, whether they realize it or not. So, we handle things, like let's suppose a new business wants to move in your neighborhood and they are trying to move into a property that's maybe not zoned for commercial. So that would be something that we would either help them achieve or decide it's not the proper use. So that sort of thing. So we do an exercise in planning called the PARC exercise, and that stands for preserve, add, remove, and keep out. And those are kind of like all the activities that we do. So we try to, preserve the great things about the city, add more great things to the city. If there are, some things that maybe are not the best land use, we try to remove them and we try to prevent bad development from happening.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think as an example for me, the way I kind of see it is, of course, I live in South Louisville and I'm really near what used to be that Sonic on Winkler.
Yeah.
And then right across Winkler from the abandoned Sonic is the abandoned Family Dollar.
Yeah.
So planning usually, and then we'll get into the neighborhood plan. So if you were to do a South Louisville neighborhood plan, we would use those PARC principles to maybe remove or add a good thing to what used to be that Sonic and what used to be that Family Dollar.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And actually, we do have a neighborhood plan for South Louisville, but I don't think that particular neighborhood that would be Algonquin, wouldn't it?
We are adjacent to Algonquin and Taylorberry, I believe. So right there in it. So I'm learning a little bit more about South Louisville, but so that would be.
Oh, you are in the South Louisville neighborhood.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that there's actually a neighborhood called South Louisville. They just think you're talking about the South End.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is specifically a neighborhood, right by U of L called South Louisville.
That's where I live.
Yeah,
and so,
excellent.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see those neighborhood boundaries. So speaking of, the park, those principles you determine the Office of Planning, keep bad stuff out, put good stuff in.
Yeah.
And that determines, what's in your neighborhood. So I think that's really cool. So what is a neighborhood plan and how does that relate?
So a neighborhood plan is a way for residents to work with the city to create a shared vision for what they want the future of their neighborhood to be. So, it's generally a process. It's a very community centered process. So when we start the neighborhood planning process, we assemble a community advisory group that just acts as a steering committee. But basically, a neighborhood plan will look at land use, housing, mobility, and try and enhance the good things, add more of the good things, and again, like you said, keep the bad things out. Generally, on a time range of 10 plus years. So we'll concentrate on short-term, medium-term, and long-term projects, with the long-term project being 10 plus years, something like perhaps this was not in a neighborhood plan, but if you've lived in Louisville for a while, you probably remember waiting 10 years for them to finish the Big Four Bridge. Like that's big projects like that take a long time.
So huge capital investments.
Yes, a lot of times they are. But since some of these things require outside funding, multiple years of funding, sometimes something as big as that would require a bond issue. Those are long-term projects. But they could also involve short-term projects, say like, adding a stop sign where a lot of kids cross the street to go to school.
Okay.
So, so it kind of runs the whole gamut of long-term and short-term plans. But neighborhood plans, help. They help residents and metro government create a shared vision of what they want the future to be and identify goals and the steps to achieve those goals for the future of the neighborhood.
Okay. No, that's great. So let me see if I can break it back down and give it back to you. So the Office of Planning determines basically, broadly, how we use land, right? And how we can do what on certain properties. And that's important because that determines what can be next door to me, theoretically, and what can be next to a school or a park, or if there is a school or a park.
Absolutely.
And so a neighborhood plan, the Office of Planning, goes out to the neighborhoods, says, hey, you live here. Let's talk about what you want to see. And so you assemble this community group, and the people that are there that live in the neighborhoods get to say, hey, this is what I want in, 5 months, 5 years, 50 years, theoretically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then you say, and I want to just go back to this a little bit, keep the bad stuff out and add more good stuff. What is some examples of like something bad or something good? How do you determine that?
Well, a lot of that comes from the community, but, there's a lot of technical expertise sort of involved in the field of planning. One thing I think it's important to add is that while metro government manages the neighborhood planning process, plans are generally created by consultants that are outside third parties. And the reason I think that's important, because I think sometimes there tends to be a public perception that metro government is kind of steering things in neighborhoods in a way that may not be centered on the community. So in order to avoid that, we use an impartial third party to manage that process. So like an example of keeping things out, I recently completed a plan in South Louisville, but not the South Louisville neighborhood. It's called the South Central Neighborhoods Plan. So it's 5 neighborhoods right around the airport: Beachmont, Wilder Park, South Side, Southland Park, and Preston Park. And there's a stretch of Steedley Drive that has a lot of industrial property, but it's adjacent to a lot of residential property. So one of the things that people were concerned about is, the industrial businesses buying up property in the area and, encroaching on the residential parts of the area. So we had a goal in the plan to discourage residential to industrial rezoning. So the important thing about these neighborhood plans, it's not like we just write them and they sit on a shelf. When there are new development proposals that come up, our staff reviews them and checks them against what an existing neighborhood plan in an area. So it's not like something that we just kind of forget about. We use these plans in our day-to-day regulatory activities.
So I think that's a really good point about the importance of neighborhood plans, what you just said. So anybody, theoretically, if you own a property, can come to the Office of Planning and propose what you want to do with it, right? So I want to put, I don't know, a bookstore in my backyard, right? I mean, so I think the point here is, so anybody can propose what they want to do on property, but if you have the neighborhood plan, the Planning Commission can look at someone's proposal and say, okay, in our neighborhood plan, we didn't really want more industrial use. Yeah. So your proposal doesn't really match. So I can deny that. Or the Planning Commission can then deny that and say, try something else.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's another important thing to mention is, the overall development in the city is guided by a document called the Comprehensive Plan. Our current comprehensive plan came out in 2020. In these, we are legally required by the state to update the comprehensive plan every 20 years. So, neighborhood plans, once the executive summary and the implementation table get adopted into the comprehensive plan, neighborhood plans take precedence over the comp plan. So it's even a little more granular than that. So, if there's something that's in line with the comp plan, the neighborhood plan is really supposed to take precedence over the comp plan.
And
the comprehensive plan. That's yes. I don't want to get too jargony on people, but that's what we call the
comprehensive plan. Basically, the city got together and decided, basically, in the most basic terms, like what we're doing as far as land use for the next 20 years. That's kind of like what our goals are, right? And so if we have a neighborhood plan and we do that, how often?
It really depends. It's a community-driven process. Some council districts like to update them more often. Sometimes plans, if you haven't really achieved all the goals in the plan, sometimes an older plan can still just be the current plan. So, that really kind of depends. But, the comprehensive plan is every 20 years.
Okay. So if I have a neighborhood plan and it was updated last year, right, but we know the comprehensive plan came out in 2020, so it's about 5 years old now. Yeah. So I can point to a neighborhood plan and say, hey, Planning Commission, I know this person wants to put this business right here, and it may fall in line with the comprehensive plan, but our neighborhood plan actually runs kind of parallel to that.
I think it's actually more like layers, like the comprehensive plan would be on a lower level and the neighborhood plan would be on an upper level, and you have to get through the upper level before you get to the lower level.
Oh, okay.
But one important thing to note about neighborhood plans is neighborhood plans are not regulatory documents. They're policy documents. So they don't enact ordinances. They don't automatically create rezonings. So it's they're policies. They're not laws. So if you went before the Planning Commission and a neighborhood plan, maybe would kind of discourage a certain use if you had a compelling argument, and it made sense, and you're well within what we consider acceptable community standards. You could still possibly do something that's discouraged against the neighborhood plan, but I think it kind of creates an issue where you have to be a good actor. Right. It puts more pressure on people to really be doing the right things in neighborhoods.
And so what I'm hearing, and you can tell me if I'm right, is with the neighborhood plans, they're a guidebook of the development. And so if the community that created this plan is really opposed to any particular development, they can kind of point to that and say, hey, we decided this, and I don't think this matches. So it gives people kind of a reference point. Or if they want a really good, they say, hey, we really want this, maybe a grocery store or a coffee shop or a bakery or any number of businesses, they have that kind of guidepost. Is like, hey, we kind of determined this already, so what can we do to make sure this good development comes in that we like and this bad development stays out that we don't like?
Exactly.
Awesome.
I think so too.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
And so recently, or right now, you are in the midst of the Shively neighborhood plan, and most of District 3, which Councilwoman Parrish-Wright represents, is Shively.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and how that may differ from other neighborhood plans.
Well, so the biggest difference, Shively, is many people may not realize this, but Shively is not a neighborhood. It's an independent home rule city,
right.
That is in the boundaries of Louisville Metro, but it's its own independent city with its own government. It is a suburb of Louisville, but it is a city. They have their own city council, they have their own mayor, they have their own Department of Public Works. So this makes the process just a little bit different. Not the planning process, because the planning process is still basically the same. The difference here is with the extra sort of legislative layer that we have to work our way through, because not only does it have to get approved by the Shively Council, the Shively City Council, once they are ready to take action on this plan, will suggest a resolution supporting the plan. So after that, the plan will go to the Planning Committee, the Louisville Metro Government Planning Committee, which decides if it's ready to be heard by the Louisville Metro Government Planning Commission. And if the Planning Commission hears it and they feel that it's a good plan and they're ready to send it to Metro Council, then Metro Council will vote on it, and it will get adopted into our comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan, even it's Louisville Metro, it still applies to all of the 78, I believe, small cities we have in the metro area. So yeah, that's really the big difference there. And Shively, there's only a few cities within Metro Louisville that have their own zoning authority, and Shively is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Shively is the oldest small city in Jefferson County.
I believe so. I can look right here on the plan at Shively, in the plan for Shively, and tell you when they were founded.
I think it was 1938, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So don't contradict me on the podcast now.
It was 1938. Shively was incorporated in 1938. Very good. Very good.
Look at that. So part of the so let me see if I'm understanding this right. So for the Shively neighborhood plan, like any other neighborhood plan, the Office of Planning, in conjunction with maybe a third-party consultant, goes out to residents of the neighborhood and says, hey, we want to do this neighborhood plan. And so this part has been done, right?
Yes.
So you consulted with a steering committee comprised of people that live in Shively.
Yes, correct.
And so that made meetings and people talked about what they wanted, and then you took notes. And so after you met and these people talked about what they want to see, the Office of Planning and the consultant kind of distilled or kind of compiled, analyzed all of that and said, okay, this is kind of what we want. And so now you have that plan. And so now where is it?
So right now the plan is making its way through that lengthy adoption process that I just described. Okay. It's a little extra lengthy just because Shively is a city, but I need to confirm this date, but the first Shively City Council meeting of October, which is the 6th, I believe, I will be attending the Shively City Council meeting to present the plan, and we'd love to have some people from the city of Shively, residents, to come out and see the presentation. I'll be around to answer any questions. Once we have that meeting where I present the plan to the city council, we will have a public comment period for 30 days. You can go to the plan website, download a copy of the plan, and there will be a feedback form where you can offer any sort of feedback that you may have on the plan. After that 30-day comment period is up, we will if there were any, sort of glaring omissions that were brought out by the public, or, some things that maybe need to be nuanced a little more, because, that occasionally happens. If, we hear something from the public that we didn't think of, we definitely take that very seriously. This most recent plan in South Central, near the airport that I was working on, we had that comment period, and I made a few pretty significant edits to the plan as a result of the public comment. So, and I just say that to make sure that everyone understands that we really do listen to what the residents have to say. So yeah, that's where we are in the plan. After the comment period's up, we'll go through. We'll have another meeting with Shavely Council where they will hopefully offer a resolution recommending that the plan be adopted as the official area plan for the city of Shavely. Then it'll go through the Metro government approval process, which again is Planning Committee, Planning Commission, Metro Council.
Okay, and that's the Metro Council Planning and Zoning Committee.
Yes.
Okay, and then the Planning Commission.
Yes.
Which is the chair theoretically the director of Public Works.
No.
The Planning Commission.
Public Works representative is just an ex officio.
Oh, okay.
Member, but yeah, there is always a representative from Public Works on the Planning Commission.
Okay, got it. Okay, that makes it. So it is a lengthy process.
It is,
and so we're at the beginning of the adoption process for the Shavely plan.
Yeah. So neighborhood plans in general, without the sort of issues that we've had in the last 5 years, particularly recovery from the pandemic. They are generally 12, 18, 24-month process. So it's a lengthy process. There's quite a few public meetings that are required. So there's actually an ordinance that stipulates exactly how many public meetings are required to be held, and the same with the community advisory group. So it's a long process, but I feel like it needs to be if you're trying to plan out 10 plus years of the future of a community, and and you're talking about things that relate to public safety. It's not in anyone's best interest to try and speed that up.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be long because we want to get as much feedback from as many people as possible.
Exactly.
To make sure as many voices are included in the future of their own neighborhood, right?
Yeah, and make sure, that we're making the right recommendations because, if we hear from the community, I really want to slow down traffic, there's 100 different ways you can slow down traffic. Right. So, we really need to find the most appropriate, cost-effective, and efficient way to do that. So yeah, it takes time. So
with the Shavely plan, can you talk a little bit about what's in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I can. And actually, a draft of the Shavely plan is currently available on the Office of Planning's website. So if you just go to LouisvilleKY.gov, and then there is on the navigation bar on the top, there's a button that says Departments, and if you click on that, a menu will drop down, and the Office of Planning is there. So if you're interested in the plan, even before we have the meeting with the Shavely Council, you can review it there. But so plans, neighborhood plans, they generally consist of overarching goals, along with some objectives and some action items to achieve those objectives and goals. And the Shavely plan, the consultants that worked on it did a really great job, I think. But they've sort of lumped things into what they call in this plan big ideas. So there's 6 overarching things that we want to accomplish in Shavely in the next 10 to 15 years. So we want to increase access to fresh food. So there's a lot of ways you can do that by, incentivizing businesses, or, Shavely has a farmer's market. So one of the ideas related to food access is creating a permanent home for the farmer's market, maybe like a pavilion so it can be rain or shine kind of event. So things like that, expanding housing options, So, Shively is primarily single-family detached homes. So there's not a lot of multifamily,
Right.
Which I know that's a controversial subject in Louisville right now. Just the idea of, multifamily housing in general is a hot topic all around the country. But,
Right.
We want to make sure that there are housing options for anybody that wants to live in Shively. We want to make sure that there's, if you want to live in Shively, we want there to be a place for you. I heard I was at a conference, and the mayor of Tempe, Arizona, he said something that I thought was powerful. People, as they get older and their kids move away and they go to college, and they want to come back, but there's nowhere for them to live, right? So, we think having housing options for everybody is important, and if you want to see your grandkids,
in your neighborhood or in
by,
your,
we're going to have some more housing. So another big idea is safe and efficient roads. I know we talked the other day, and I mentioned the old derogatory term, the Dixie Dyway,
Right.
So that we know traffic's a huge issue in speeding and sidewalks. There's a lot of Shively that doesn't have
pedestrian safety
sidewalks.
as well.
Yeah, and maybe bicycle facilities. So just making sure that all modes of transportation are safe and efficient in the city of Shively. So there's another big idea related to a town center at what really already feels like the town center of Shively, which is the 5-way intersection with Dixie and Crumbs and 7th Street Road, where they all come together.
Is that right? And remind me, that's right there where the Southland Terrace.
Southland Terrace.
Oh,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
So, that's kind of, visually everybody kind of already feels that that's the middle of Shively. So we want to encourage, more businesses and, residential that are close and can access those businesses, because we know a lot of people in a lot of parts of Jefferson County, they don't live close to a grocery store. There's a lot of amenities that some neighborhoods have and some don't, and we really want to kind of balance that scale out a little bit. So the town center is a way to, to not only increase amenities, but increase people's proximity to those amenities. So a greener Shively, so we're looking at expanding the tree canopy. I'm not sure where we stand today, but I know when I first started doing this type of work, Louisville was the second largest urban heat island in America. We have a lot of trees in some areas, and some areas just don't have any, and that creates a lot of health issues and makes everyone's utility bills higher,
right?
Which creates more pollution. So it's the snake eating its own tail, and it just keeps going. So we want to do something about that. And we also the final big idea is creating a sense of place. So we know Shively, as you said, is incorporated in 1938. It's an old established area that generations have now grown up in, and we want to think about the sort of institutions and the memories of Shively that everyone has, and we want to preserve those and help people understand more about them.
Yeah, that's awesome. When we were reviewing the Shively plan together, I thought, there was a lot of really great work done and ideas put forward about what the future should look like, especially given that it's such a historic and important city in our county, right? And so once we talked about it just a little bit, so once everybody gets feedback and the Office of Planning can make changes to the plan based on what they hear from Shively Council, the Shively Mayor, or Shively residents, right? And then once it incorporates those, and then it gets adopted. So then we talked about just a little bit, but then what happens with the plan once it's been adopted? So
that's it. It sounds like once the plan's been adopted, we can just put our feet up now, and that's not really what's going on.
Okay.
So that's the planning part is the easy part. So,
okay.
So the difficult part is the implementation. So that's and that really needs to be a joint effort, particularly with Shively plan. a joint effort between Metro government, Metro Council, the city of Shively government, their city council, and the residents that, pushed for these ideas. That's when we start looking at funding sources, because we don't necessarily have funding for all the projects that we're suggesting currently, so when, for those that don't work in government, there's a lot of times where we'll write federal grants for transportation projects, right? So we want everybody to keep these plans in mind when they're seeking funding for projects, and we just need people to show up at Metro Council, show up at Shively City Council, and keep the goals and objectives of this plan in the forefront of everyone's mind. And like I said, there are projects that are, short term, which is less than a year probably, and, midterm that are, 5 years or so. What we don't want to happen is 5 years from now, everybody forgot that there even was a plan, and, we had all these great ideas and we just forgot about them. So a lot of times a council office, will have like an implementation team, or they'll work with a neighborhood association, just to check in on, where these projects stand. And eventually, I think my role is going to have a lot to do with sort of managing that, but that's yet to be seen.
Yes. So if I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like once it's adopted, it is then on both the governing bodies, potential business owners, residents, so everybody, basically. Everybody should be keeping these plans in mind when they're allocating funding for projects or proposing projects, right? So if I lived in that neighborhood and I wanted to contribute to that neighborhood, I could reference the plan and be like, how can what I am offering to the community be in line with what they have asked for?
Exactly. And I think that the plan really needs to act as a guide for work plans for government agencies and budgetary sort of decisions. That all the plan should really influence all of those sorts of things.
Okay, so for example, like at the Metro Council level, something maybe like perhaps an incentive for a certain type of business that's in line with the plan. Like, how do we, and I think you mentioned that briefly, like, how do we make it more attractive for maybe a retailer, a grocery store, to be within a certain area?
Yeah, well, and that's economic development. That's not really my area.
Right.
I think, like a great example is that sort of 5-way intersection, the town center of Shively. So, zoning, the way zoning works in Louisville is we have form districts, right? And that area is a town center form district, right?
Now you're getting into new territory. Yeah. What is a form district?
So a form district is it's a zoning sort of classification that sort of acts as an overarching zoning for a large area. So you can have, like, let's say like where your house is, you're probably zoned, if you're inside the urban core, you're probably zoned like R5.
Yeah.
Would be your individual property zoning. Zoning district, the form district, would most likely be traditional neighborhoods. So there's, regulations within the form districts that stipulate things like, how far your building sets back from the curb, how much space there needs to be between houses and those sort of things. So
and that would be different. So like where I live on a residential street, right, with just a bunch of houses up and down the street would be different than like if I go to Commerce Crossing, or if I go like down here, right, by Metro Hall. That would be a different form district because it's not necessarily completely residential.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, so we're in the central business district right now, and there's no there's no parking requirements for businesses in the central business district. If we were like in a traditional marketplace corridor sort of form district, there would be most likely things like parking requirements and things. So they're different all over the city, but it guides development in an area rather than just on a single parcel.
Okay, that makes sense. And so you were talking about with the Southland Terrace area, it has a certain
it's already
district.
in a town center form district. So like a lot of the zoning changes that you might have to do to open a business or develop a property, that form district is already in line with what's happening in the plan. So it takes down some barriers.
Okay, so since it's already in that form district, and that's what the community has indicated they want, there would be less hurdles for a potential business to jump through because it's already existing how it needs to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
So it would just be attraction of a business to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really helpful.
And, a lot of times that attraction is just being near people. It doesn't necessarily need to be an economic development, incentive. We have a saying in planning that retail follows rooftops. Once there's people that need amenities, that's when the amenities come, because you probably never heard of anyone saying, "Oh, well, I just bought a new house because it's closer to a grocery store." Like that's not. It's not the other way around.
Right.
The amenities come to the people.
Normally, that makes sense. And so this is really good about the Shively plant, but I have some other questions.
Great.
So, Shively is mostly District 3, but we have other neighborhoods, right? We have about 12 total neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then there is some discussion about Shively being split up into like 3 or 4 different neighborhoods if you look at Metro United Way, which I haven't heard anybody use like, oh, I'm, Shively Northeast Farnsley, or I'm...
Yeah, I've never heard that either.
I've never heard it, but I mean...
I've lived here most of my life. I've never heard that.
Some people may. I haven't heard that. But we have about 12 neighborhoods if you don't consider all the different ways they have kind of divided Shively. And so are there any upcoming neighborhood plans for other neighborhoods in District 3?
So actually we are putting the finishing touches on the first draft of a plan that will cover the Algonquin, Park Duval, and Hallmark neighborhoods.
Oh, so 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's
and I know there's also District 1 and District 6 involved in that planning process. But in the coming months, we will be going through this process all over again with the we call it the APH plan around the
Algonquin Park Hill,
around the office. Yeah, just for simplicity's sake. But yeah, so that should be coming down the pike pretty soon.
So have you already identified community members to?
We've already been through the planning process. Oh. We're in the process of drafting the first draft.
Okay, and that's been through Hallmark as well. Mm-hmm. Oh. Okay. Oh, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it's me too. The consultant, I just spoke with him over the weekend, so I'm hoping to have a first draft here in the coming weeks.
Okay.
And of course, I'll be in touch with you guys.
Right. Yeah. So, because when I think about Hallmark, that's a very strong, very historic neighborhood.
Oh yeah. It's when I worked at Center for Neighborhoods, we had some of the Hallmark Neighborhood Association people go through our Neighborhood Institute program, and yeah, they were like original residents from when those houses were first built in like the early '60s, I believe.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because there's really like 2 parts of Hallmark. There's like the houses I just described that were all built by the same developer as a subdivision in the early '60s, but there's also some I guess I'm not sure if they were existing houses at that time or if they were built after the subdivision, but that's it's a neat area that a lot of people have no idea it even exists in Louisville, obviously.
Beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah.
I love, driving through that neighborhood, and I'm really excited because, the subdivision, like the very residential roads that are there, and I'm excited to see like what amenities and what they have decided that they would like to see in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, me too. Well, once we once we get to the reviewing the draft process all together, of course I'll be in contact with your office and also with District 6 and District 1. So we can start working that one through the process.
Yeah. Now, how does the Office of Planning determine what the neighborhood boundaries are? Is that
so? Well, I wouldn't say that's a controversial thing, but
it can be.
Back in the 1970s, when community development block grants were first established by HUD.
And HUD is the Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm sorry. I hate it when people use acronyms that I don't understand.
Yes.
I try not to do it myself, but yeah, HUD is it's the Federal Office of Housing and Urban Development. In order to determine, the eligibility for those grants, Louisville had to have neighborhood boundaries, and they were drawn at that time. If you go to logic.org, LOJIC.org, and go to their map hub, you can find a map of all the neighborhood boundaries in the city of, Louisville Metro, and also boundaries for all the small cities that are inside Metro as well.
Oh, okay. So there were pre-existing boundaries for a long time of these neighborhoods?
Yeah, I think they were based on sort of what everybody called the neighborhoods, but they weren't like official boundaries. But the community development block grant program made it necessary to just kind of solidify those.
Yeah, because I've noticed in my experience, neighborhood boundaries are really flexible, like colloquially, like how we talk about them.
Exactly.
Like how my neighborhood is called South Louisville. Like it's the South Louisville neighborhood, but it's not necessarily like the South End, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just think that's really interesting as we think about neighborhoods and as the residents think, oh, this is part of my neighborhood or this is not.
Oh, yeah. And, that when I worked at Center for Neighborhoods, I'd often have people tell me that they lived in a neighborhood that was totally not the neighborhood they lived
that was established, right.
Or, there used to be, like Russell in California, there used to be East and West Russell, and there used to be East and West California. And 18th Street was the dividing line on both of those. And I've seen maps that actually said East Russell and West Russell. I use Russell as an example because I worked exclusively in the Russell neighborhood for 5 years. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. But yeah, it's a lot of people. One side of Broadway is one neighborhood, and the other side is a different neighborhood. And some people just say, I live in the West End.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or I just live in East Louisville.
You do live in the West End, but you also live in Chickasaw. Right. Or it could be.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think that's a really cool discussion on neighborhoods. Is there anything else we should know about neighborhood plan? What is your takeaway? What is like your one, like this is what we should really think about when we think about neighborhoods and neighborhood plans?
Well, I think the important thing to me is neighborhood plans give a community a voice. And when I first started doing this work, I actually went through the Neighborhood Institute program with Center for Neighborhoods, and I saw people, feel empowered when they found out that they could actually, go to a Metro Council meeting, say something, about how they felt and have influence on the outcomes in their community. A good friend that used to be on the board of the Center for Neighborhoods, Mike O'Leary, said to me one time, the people that show up to the meetings are the ones that get to help make the decisions. And I thought that was just so powerful. And neighborhood planning is a way to give residents a voice for what they want the future of their community to be, but above that, it's a voice that gets listened to. So that's the important thing about it to me, which is why I chose to do this work. It helps people shape the future that they want.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, especially as you say. And that's what I've started to learn in my personal life. Like, literally, and you hear it said all the time, but like what's real, it's like showing up really is half the battle.
Yeah.
Like if you're just present, which can be challenging for any number of reasons, right? But I think that's a really powerful thing because it's challenging, yes, but then when you start doing it, you realize, oh, it's like you can just be engaged.
You can just call 574-1103 and talk to you.
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really powerful for people to understand. Now, I will say, there are some questions I have that I didn't, and they're kind of controversial.
Okay.
Do you have time for just controversial hot topics?
Sure, of course.
Okay. So when we talk about industry and industrial zoning, there to me, what I've noticed is kind of a tension between the want to keep our neighborhoods without like heavy truck traffic, pollutants, all of that. And then there's another side that says we have to have business like that. How do we establish that balance for like business and jobs and so-called business attraction with what the community actually wants in their neighborhood?
Yeah, and that is a very controversial topic. You're absolutely right, and I think I would hope that people on both sides of that, kind of understand that we really try and focus on smart development. Right. So, we obviously we need businesses, obviously we need housing. But there are ways to create both of those things without having a negative impact on the community, and sometimes it takes a little more planning. It takes a little more money sometimes, but, I think it would be better off if we would be better off if we all just, if we worked, like I said, to, make sure that that we can still have the development we need without creating negative impacts on the community. And that's not always easy. And, it's, but it is tricky. It is tricky. I mean, people want things from the city that the city can't afford sometimes, and the way that we afford those things sometimes is increasing the tax base, and the way you do that is through development, through economic development. And I'm not an economic development expert at all, but again, I would like people to understand that the focus in the Office of Planning is not approving every development or denying every development, but
smart,
just smart, considerate development, that's going to minimize the negative impacts on the community, and especially minimize the impacts on areas of the community that have been negatively impacted historically for quite some time in the past.
So if I asked, is there like theoretically enough land way outside of somebody's neighborhood to just put development so no neighbors have to deal with it? Is that reasonable, or is that feasible?
That's really out of my area of expertise, to be honest.
Understood, yes. All right. Is there anything else, final thoughts, closing thoughts that you'd like to offer?
I think I'd like to just, reiterate what I said earlier about, being involved. That's being I heard a quote one time that, the most important job in the world is being a citizen. And I would just encourage people to just be involved in their community and in whatever way feels appropriate to you. You don't have to go to every Metro Council meeting, but I think a great way for people to get started is to go to LouisvilleKY.gov and sign up for some newsletters. Yeah. Right. So
District 3 newsletter.
Yeah. Well, I know, when I started doing this work and started being involved in the community, because it started through my work in a neighborhood association, I subscribed to any sort of zoning changes. Subscribe to my council district newsletter. Subscribe to the ABC license, alcoholic beverage control license, and the planning commission. There's got to be 200 Metro government newsletters out there.
I think I'm subscribed to them all.
I know I'm subscribed to them all, but I think that's it's a great way to stay informed. And I would if you're not really involved in the community and you want to be more involved in the community, there is a way. Yes, I would definitely subscribe to that. If you're part of if you're in a neighborhood that has a neighborhood association, maybe go to a meeting and see if it's for you. Sometimes they are and sometimes they're not,
right.
But you don't know until you show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. You don't know until you show up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, let's give it up for Mr. John Hawkins with the Office of Planning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to having you back.
Yeah.
All right.